With your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play, I am Spencer Linton alongside Jerem Jordan. Joining us now, and sadly, because the BYU basketball season has wrapped up, he won't be joining us every week, but he will be back.
Wait, what? Why?
Or maybe he will. We'll find out. Let's bring him in.
Do we know
ESPN
this?
Sean Farnham is back on BYU Sports Nation. The man needs to rest at some point.
Don't say goodbye.
Oh, wait. Listen. This is temporary, but
Listen, it's not about the time that we won't be sharing. It's about the time that we have shared.
Yes.
And I think that's what we all need to remember in this moment. Yeah,
The friendship made along the way.
Amen to
There we
that.
go.
All right, we just heard you kind of, and as you opined about Kevin Young and what he's done in his first year, but now that it's officially over and BYU's run came to an end in the Sweet 16, in a blowout loss to Alabama, albeit, but still in the Sweet 16, how would you overall assess what happened at BYU in year one under Coach Young?
Well, first of all, they ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, literally a buzzsaw. And I've been there, guys. I've been there in the Sweet 16 and played well in the first two rounds. And all of a sudden, UCLA shows up in the Sweet 16 and you get blitzed by like 20. And you're like, what was that? How did that happen? And obviously, outer body experience with Alabama's ability to knock down threes in that game. But I think overall, you look at what transpired and the process of getting there. You know, I remember there was a time I came on this show early in conference play, and you guys were like, do you think we can get to 10-10? Is 10-10 good enough to make the NCAA tournament? You know, and look at where they ended up. 14 wins in conference play, home color uniform in the NCAA tournament, advancing to the Sweet 16. I think all of those things are huge building blocks and foundational pieces to clearly what this program is going to be under Kevin Young, the type of program he wants to have, and then also more importantly, stylistically, how he plays, how he coaches. I think all of those things have now been firmly laid out for everybody to see, whether it's transfers, whether it's freshmen, doesn't really matter. I think this program is going to maintain its very high level of expectations.
Certainly huge expectations, as you mentioned. A.J. DeBonsa coming in. Yet, where do you start the conversation with off-season priorities for the Cougars?
All right, Twitter guy, by the way, that just you guys read in the last segment. Let me just clarify something. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan slightly better than the three that you'll have at BYU next year.
Well, let's play it out.
Just saying. But no, listen. I think that you guys are very astute. I think one more than anything, retention. Like, who can you get back? You've got to get those pieces moving pretty quick, by the way. You've got to have a good sense at least. Would not surprise me if Egor and Richie both tested the draft waters. The problem with that is, are you holding those two spots, waiting for them, and allowing others that might be able to come in and play right away, be able to be to go elsewhere because you're holding those two spots? Clearly, those two guys are worth holding spots for. But I think it's more about obtaining the information right now, and I'm sure that's what Kevin Young is doing for both of them. This is where they see you right now. This is where you'd be slotted according to most NBA front offices. And again, you have a coach that has direct lines of communications to all of those teams to give them actual information that is tangible. I think that's very valuable in this moment. Then it becomes a personal decision outside of that. But I think when you look and you say, okay, if you get those two pieces back, you're golden. Obviously, the other parts and components, the dominoes that may fall if they do come back or if they do leave, changes as far as your approach. The other big thing that people have to realize is the transfer portal is going to move very quickly this year because the impending judgment that is expected to come down actually on Championship Monday, April 7th. Will start to limit or put into effect that $20 million, $21.5 million NIL thing that the judge is determining. If the judge makes its determination on that, which it's expected that she will, that will go into effect on July 1. However, if you are in the portal and you sign before April 7th, a lot of teams and a lot of universities are front-loading NIL contracts to be paid out before June 30th, so it doesn't count against the settlement because of the fact that their NIL agreement was put into place prior to the judgment being made, which keeps them away from all of that money, and it's allowing them to front-load, get players paid a little bit more. So I think that's why you're going to see very quick movement in the transfer portal right now. And it's very important also, by the way, quick movement in regards to retention of your players. You lock in those deals, you can front load them right away if you have the cash available to you. And then it allows you to have a better opportunity to pay those returning players a little bit more to make sure that they're locked in and staying.
Sean Farnham of ESPN is on BYU Sports Nation. Let's talk about some of BYU's biggest assets on the roster right now. Understandably, fans are very, very interested in what Egor Demin decides to do. So, Sean, let's assess what BYU is with Egor coming back and without. How much of an impact would it make based on what he ultimately decides to do, if that's go to the NBA or come back for a second year?
I think his decision is really tough because there was so much growth throughout the course of the year. I mean, just look at how he played in the last 2 games as far as, not turning the ball over, not being loose with it. And I think, as we mentioned early on, there's like twofold to that. One is the guys had to get used to being ready to catch the ball at any point in time because his court vision and court awareness is so good. He started shooting the ball better down the stretch. He was much more assertive as far as a score. Some of his mid-range moves were outstanding, where he would stop, pull back, little fadeaway jump shots. I think he showed a really complete game. And I think that if he comes back, I think thinking that BYU could be potentially a top 10 team is not out of the equation. If he goes, I think that there's a chance that he is, look, if you're in the lottery, you got to go. And there's a chance that he's going to be in the lottery just based on his vision and awareness, his size, and then the upside for coaches. They'll look at it and say, well, we can fix his shot even more. Not that his shot needs a tremendous amount of fixing. His form's really good, but it's just the consistency and the confidence in that shot. I'd be surprised, guys, to be honest, if he didn't go, based on kind of our projections at ESPN and where Jonathan Givony has him. And I think that the way he played down the stretch is going to even further intrigue scouts when you look at his size and skill set that he has. So I think it's a little bit tougher for me to see a path where he comes back. If he doesn't come back, I think then obviously you need to go out and get an elite playmaker at the point guard position. Dallin Hall is very capable, obviously. We've seen that this year and before this year, even go back to the year ago when he was playing like 30 minutes a game. He's more than capable of being a lead guard and certainly played big moments. But I think you do want to try to see if you can get somebody in that echelon of a transfer that believes that they could potentially go to that next level and that they are excited about the opportunity to play with AJ in a system that Coach Young operates in.
What kind of portal guys and types of guys do you think BYU needs to add?
I think that they're going to need shooting. I mean, obviously, I think that's always a key component, and certainly the way that they played this year with some of the losses that you have, you want to continue to find guys that can stretch the floor. I think most importantly, I think that if you're going to be a national championship quality team, I think a lot of that comes down to your ability to defend and rebound. So I think length on that back line is going to become much more important for BYU. They need to get taller. They need to have more impact in the paint than they had this season. And if you're able to do that, I think it's going to start to make everything else work well. I'm looking at this graphic. Are you guys telling me that Trevin Nell is not available to come back again?
Amazingly,
it's so sad.
Amazingly,
I mean, look, the guy graduated high school the same year as Trae Young. It might be time, but I'm going to miss Trevin. I'm going to miss Trevin a lot. I make jokes about it, but he's been a great player and embodies a lot of what BYU is all about. There's no doubt about it. But I do think length in particular underneath and size is going to be important for BYU moving forward.
Yeah, tough to say goodbye to a 43% three-point shooter in Trevin Nell.
I thought you were going to say 43-year-old. So, I mean, I guess, okay.
And a 40% free throw shooter in Muat Mag. Then there's the cannon catching situation. We saw some, at times, huge upside. Just never felt like the right fit consistently, Sean. And that's so tough to overcome because you know that he's supremely talented, but it just didn't seem to fit consistently. So how do you assess the whole cannon catchings experiment with BYU and him moving on now in the portal?
It's fine. I mean, you see this all the time. They were in this modern day of college basketball. I thought there were great moments early on in the season, but I think as the season went on, his role continued to diminish, and I think that told you a lot about where he currently was situated. And in today's world, I mean, it's interesting, and I'm not faulting anybody that does this. And Cannon is not. I'm certainly not faulting Cannon for going ahead and looking at going somewhere else. But back in the day when you didn't play a lot or you wanted your role to change, you know what you did? You worked harder. But that's no longer the pathway that a lot of people take. They want to reset. And I think that's kind of this video game era. Like, I'm losing in Madden. Let me go ahead and just reset it and I'll play another game. And I think that we see that across the board. And so I hope for him that he's able to find a good reset in a system and a program where he feels like his role is going to be consistent and that is going to continue to develop him, because I think that he is an NBA talent. I told you guys early on, I did not think he was going to be an NBA talent this year, regardless of this late first round stuff that we were talking about in January. I thought he was going to have to come back. I thought if he came back, he would have really benefited from Coach Young and playing certainly with AJ and having an increased role on next year's roster. But this is his decision. And again, I wish all the kids that get into the portal a happy landing spot. And certainly we've seen that even play out with teams in the NCAA tournament that are still in the Final Four, how much of their roster came through the transfer portal. And I'm sure that he will garner a lot of attention, good NIL money, and hopefully, again, for his journey and his positioning of what his dreams and his aspirations are, I hope he lands in a great spot.
All right, Sean, in our final 30 seconds, who wins on...
Sorry.
All good.
I just coughed. I just coughed and said Purdue at the same time. It's crazy.
Nice.
All right, go ahead.
Who wins on Final Four Saturday and on National Championship Monday?
I'm hoping I do, guys. Let's just be honest. With Tater Tot King, Reggie Saunders, I do want to put this out there. If indeed there is a commercial made, I better be the sports announcer with Jerem on the call.
Let's go
of the commercial, so that we can get a little piece. I don't want to take any of Richie's money.
Yeah.
I just want to be part of the commercial. I don't think that's too much. I don't.
It was step
Jerem,
2, and then you were step 3. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was good. I mean, I said it on ESPN. It kind of blew up, even though they inaccurately gave it to Roxy Bernstein credit for it. I was the one that said it. I'm sorry. Roxy, you don't get that. As far as the actual question that you asked me, I will answer that. I think that this is a great
Threw up a
Final
graphic.
Four.
They're like, he's not even talking about it.
Yeah, they're like, graphic. Put it over Farnham's face. Nobody wants to see him. I'll go with Florida, mainly because I don't believe that Janai Broom, at least at this moment, that right arm is fully functional. We saw him come back, and that heart was great. But that thing was like basically taped to his side. He was one-arm rebounding. One-arm rebounding isn't going to work against the Florida Gators. Also, when they beat Auburn, they played without Elijah Martin. Elijah Martin will be playing this weekend for the Florida Gators. So I like Todd Golden and Florida Gators in the national championship game. I do, in my original bracket, I had Houston. I do think it's really tough to not put Duke in the national championship game at this point, based on the fact of this. I think Houston's going to go through a scoring drought. I don't think Duke will go through long scoring droughts. I do think it's a low scoring game. They played last year in the NCAA tournament 54-51. That was without Jamal Shedd for Houston, and obviously a very different Duke team this year than they had a year ago. But I do think that Houston will keep it tight. I do think it'll be a low scoring affair based on the elite level of both defenses, very different styles of defense. But I do have Duke and Florida in the national championship game on Monday night.
Sean, always great to talk with you and catch up with you. Can't wait to do this again at some point. So it's goodbye for the moment. Yes, my friend. Oh, so sad.
So long, farewell.
Never say goodbye. Holding on to what we got. Hey, you know what? In all seriousness, BYU Nation, BYU Sports Nation, and the two of you, I want to say thank you for having me on a consistent basis. I never take for granted the opportunity to come on and talk about your program with the two of you. Your insight is always fun. Your questions are always great. The entire staff that's in the control room, your production crew is top notch. The very best in the business. So credit to all of those. And I will miss you all. But I'm sure that you'll sign somebody out of the portal that you call me back for. And at that point, you'll be like, shoot, he's back again.
It's only a matter of time. Sean, you're the best. We'll talk to you again soon.
Sean.
All right, save some Cougar Tales for me next year, all right?
You got it. We're on it. Always a delight. Sean Farnham.